So welcome everyone to the JB Media Digital Drop-In. I'm so glad to have you all joining me today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is event marketing, and something that I've been teaching and working in the field on for literally the last 20 years. Most people don't know that before I got into digital marketing officially and started my first company, I was working for a company that did wedding expos across the country. And so I traveled and I was literally the event producer. I did all the digital marketing. I worked with the sales team to sell all the booths. And then we would throw these wild events with chocolate fountains and fashion shows and 60 or 70 vendors. And I would literally just go to different cities and produce these events. And so that's how I kind of fell in love with the event world. And it was really exciting for me. And it's a subject that I think is really important because I think every year I've realized as we work on events, there's always opportunities we don't take. And that's what Rachel is going to help us talk about today. How do we really maximize our events? How do we look at some of the new technology that's out there today? Make sure that we're aware of what we really can do at this point because it is rapidly changing. And most of all, I just want to mention to everyone that our DIY Tourism Marketing Conference, which is our big event every year here in Asheville, of course, it had to be postponed due to the hurricane and what happened. But I'm going to drop the link in the chat for everyone. If you haven't checked out our event before, I'm really excited that we're going to be able to keep going and that our host hotel was willing to move us to the spring. So you now have an opportunity to come to Asheville in the spring and get some really good hands-on training, dig in with different people on different subjects, everything from SEO to different types of social media marketing, to tourism product development, to event marketing and things like that. So I'm really excited to bring one of our partners for that event today to share their expertise and to just, like I said, share with you the vision of kind of where the future of events is going. Because again, the new tech in the world is really amazing. I think there's new opportunities all the time. And we've seen one of the biggest trends in tourism is people literally planning their trips based on events. So thank you, Taylor Swift and Beyonce, because they have definitely been the leaders of this trend. But I don't think that trend is going to go away. And I'm actually someone who is a fan and a participant in that trend as well. I've always traveled, sometimes even just by myself to go to different music concerts, to go to different special events, different conferences, and I love that. So as we go along today, like I said, I'll be in the chat, but you also have the Q&A. You can enter in any questions. I'll make sure that Rachel gets those, but I want to make sure that she's got all of her co-hosting abilities there. And she's going to lead us in this conversation today. So thanks so much for joining us. And Rachel, thanks so much for bringing your own expertise and for just bringing Yodel together with us to talk about this today.
Thank you, Sarah. And you're spot on about what you said about the event world. It's really changed so rapidly, especially since COVID. And that's where we feel we have a really unique opportunity to help not only visitors bureaus and event aggregators who are trying to pull all of these events into one place, but also helping folks who maybe don't get a lot of visibility with their individual events. We believe that that is really the bread and butter of a community. And we want to help with increasing community engagement, tourism, and visibility for all of the wonderful things you guys are doing in your communities. So that's what we're all about. But my name is Rachel Normansell. I know it says Shaw. Sometimes Zoom likes to take my maiden name. I'm sure my husband would not like that too much. But I am the business development manager at Yodel. I have been in sales and marketing for over 10 years now, and I've been with Yodel for coming up on 3 years. So I've really gotten to learn a lot about the event world and how that relates to websites, web traffic, search engine optimization, etc. So let me share my screen with you here. And hopefully everything's looking good. We are really excited to attend the DIY conference in March, by the way. This is going to be our first time attending. So if you are going, please stop by our booth. We'd love to meet you in person. Actually, my colleague Corey is sitting in here as well. We work very closely together. So we're excited to meet you. But today, what we're going to be talking about is event-driven marketing. and how you can use the untapped potential of events in your area to increase tourism and also drive web traffic to your website. So, most of you are very aware of this, I'm sure. Travelers are just simply flooded with info these days. There's so many ways to get our information. And most travelers are cutting through the noise by starting on Google. So that's actually where 75% of tourists begin planning their trip. And if your website isn't there, they might never find you. So tourists are scanning for the most visible and trusted results. And if you're not on page one, you could be out of sight. In fact, really interestingly, 68% of people are going to select one of the top three options on the Google search results. So SEO is just critical in a crowded market. And SEO does let you meet those visitors where they're at, right? So we want you to be that top choice in those visitors making their destination to travel to your area. So we're going to start with a topic that I'm very familiar with, the sales funnel. This is something that you might have seen in the past, and the sales funnel is really a very simple idea. You're starting by attracting a large number of prospects at the top of the funnel, and from there, some are going to become leads. Um, and that percentage eventually becomes buyers. But as you work your way through that funnel, the likelihood that they're going to buy is going to decrease, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, by the time you get 100 prospects into the top of the funnel, by the time you get to the bottom of it is likely a 10% conversion rate using that example. Now, there are two ways to grow your sales. One, you can bring more prospects into the funnel. And then two, you can improve your conversion rate by getting more people to move from interest to action. So here's the really exciting part about this. Even just a small change in your conversion rate can make a gigantic difference. For example, if you're raising it from 10% to 20%, you're doubling your sales without needing more prospects. That's the power of optimizing your funnel. How does this relate to a visitors bureau website? Well, think about it. People are discovering your site or your destination, and some of them might just start considering visiting. From there, a smaller percentage are actually taking action. They'll plan their trip and become a visitor to your destination. So, if your goal is to bring more visitors to your area, there are two key strategies. The first is you can increase the top of your funnel, attracting more people to your site. And the second is you can optimize your site to convert more of those visitors into actual trips. So here's where it gets really exciting. Today, we're going to dive into how event automation can do both of those things. It can drive more traffic to your site, improve conversions, and do it all at a lower cost than what you're spending now. And what's really interesting about event automation is it is a newer technology. As Sarah just said, there's so much out there right now. And we at Yodel, that is something that we help with. So I'm excited to share with you how this can have a huge impact. So let's talk about the top of the funnel. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about my husband and I, who we don't like giving each other gifts during the holidays. We like to take a trip. Just like Sarah said, we love traveling. And this is actually almost a year to the day we took this photo. We were determining where we wanted to travel. And we're big bourbon folks, mainly my husband. He's gotten me into it a little bit. We were thinking, well, we want to go to Bourbon Town. So let's go to either Frankfurt or Bardstown. Well, I told him, we have to negotiate a little bit here because you got your bourbon, but I want to go see some live music. That would really fill my cup during the holidays. So I went in and Googled things to do in Frankfurt, Kentucky. And it was really cool. I actually went right to the Visit Frankfurt site. In fact, the first two options on Google were visitfrankfurt.com. I went to their events calendar and searched live music. There was nothing to be found in the results, which I was very surprised to see that because generally there's live music on the weekends in any given community, right? So then I Googled live music in Frankfurt, Kentucky. Search results were a little different in this case. The top three included the Kentucky tourism website, but that wasn't local. I wasn't really able to find anything that I needed on that site. And then, of course, the second was Facebook. Don't get me started on Facebook. I know we all use it, we all love it, but not the best for promoting events sometimes because it's not reaching a lot of eyeballs. And also, I don't like scrolling on Facebook. Third, Eventbrite, which I don't know the last time you've been on Eventbrite, but it's really hard to find local events. Typically, people are posting their events there just because it offers a ticket sale component. But unfortunately, Visit Frankfurt was nowhere to be found here. And unfortunately, many CVBs are losing control of would be visitors due to the loss of event related keywords. What do I mean by that? And why does this happen? Well, many CVBs have done an excellent job optimizing their websites for keywords like things to do in, things to see in, or maybe major attractions or signature events in their area. And I see this all the time. Santa Fe, for instance, we're traveling there next year. They have a huge hot air balloon festival, and the CVB is excellent at ranking for that festival. And in fact, based on our research using tools like SEMrush and SE ranking, when people are searching for these keywords, CVBs are actually in the top three search results about 90% of the time, as you saw with that Visit Frankfurt example. If you haven't tried this in your own community sometime, you should just give it a go. It's really interesting, and you'll definitely see your site near the top of the search rankings, I'd imagine. This is great though. I mean, I definitely don't want to negate how awesome it can be to rank for these keywords. Those are highly searched terms, and it does work well for people searching those keywords. But here is the challenge. According to Google, there are top 50 event related keywords. And they're kind of things like events in, live music in, really good example, farmers markets, theaters, etc. And we are actually partnered with a great guy named Ray Peabody. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ray. He's the CEO of CVB Digital and one of the industry's leading marketing experts. Ray said most communities don't have enough unique attractions like that hot air balloon festival to bring in visitors, and they need to rely on activities and events to stand out in their community, which is so true. If you're traveling to a community, you might like a yoga class to go to on a Sunday afternoon. Everyone is so different and unique in their interests. So here's the big kicker here. In most mid-sized markets, there are around 3,000 event-related searches each month. And by mid-sized market, I'm talking like a rural community anywhere between 15,000, 80,000 people in the population. Only 10% of those searches bring the CVB into the top three search results. That means that there are 2,700 potential visitors who are being missed every single month. People who could have been drawn to your area, perhaps, or your website. That's exactly what happened to Patrick and I when we were visiting Kentucky last year. So, how does event automation address this? Going back to this funnel here, and event automation technology, we actually have developed our event automation technology to focus on these top 50 event keywords. So how does this work? Well, a distinct URL is being assigned to each event, allowing search engines to treat each event like its own blog. And I imagine a lot of you are spending great effort writing blogs, making sure your website is up to date with fresh and unique content. And that's great because Google loves that. Content freshness is a Google ranking factor. So the more fresh content on your site, the better. Imagine every day having new events automatically getting pulled in with their own distinct URL to your website. That can help you rank for significantly more keywords. And 2,700 is just a huge number of traffic that can be coming into your site in the grand scheme of things. So, how does this relate to conversions? We've accomplished this amazing of 50 event keywords. We're ranking for more keywords. How can we then use event automation to maximize the conversion rate? How can we get more heads in beds? That's where something called the event mix comes in. And we've coined that term here at Yodel, event mix. You might never have heard of that before. And that's because we've just done so much research over the years at what people are interested in going to. And sometimes it's actually not what you'd expect. So, I'm going to tell you another story about our CEO right here. That's Larry Triplett and his wife Debbie. And they're such fun people. They adventure. They can't go to a beach and just sit on the beach for a week. They got to go snowshoeing, jump out of airplanes, doing all this crazy stuff. I don't know how they do it. But last year, similarly to Patrick and I, they wanted to take a little trip to Michigan to go snowshoeing. So, very similar situation. They were researching towns that they wanted to stay in nearby. So, they're looking for things to do in the area. They narrow it down between Frankfort, Michigan, and Traverse City. Frankfort, Michigan, not to be confused with Frankfort, Kentucky, of course. And they were equidistant to the place they were going snowshoeing. So they started doing some Google searching, same as what I did with the live music. Both visitors bureaus came up in the Google search. Awesome. Great job to both of these communities. And both CVBs actually had really great event calendars with tons of events. They almost had the same exact number of events on there. But here's where it got really interesting for them. Frankfurt had a ton of live music. Apparently, I need to go to Frankfurt because I would like that. They also had a sprinkling of events from other categories, but they were lacking in family. They had no family events listed, surprisingly. And a lot of folks love traveling with their families. And then, of course, Traverse City, on the other hand, while they had a few less live music events, they had greater representation among the other seven categories of events that we have determined to be the best event mix on any given website. And this could be a tourism website. This could also be any type of community calendar, chamber of commerce website, etc. So, can you guess where Larry and Debbie chose to stay? Well, they did pick Traverse City. And why did they pick Traverse City? Well, they actually just felt that it had more things going on there. And ironically, they didn't actually participate in any of these other activities. They just felt like it was a happening place. So, this is a really subtle but critical point that many CVBs can miss. Research shows that these 8 key event categories are what visitors are actively searching for. And when all of these categories are well represented, it makes that destination feel vibrant and alive, even if the visitor doesn't plan to do anything at all relating to those events. So, that is the richness and energy that people are searching for, especially in this day of social media where people want to post cool photos. And that's what they're thinking. They're like, where can I get the best photo? So, how do we maximize these conversions with event automation? Well, the technology I'm referring to helps find events in those key 8 categories. That helps the visitors bureau or the event aggregator control the event mix. And if you're managing a community calendar or any type of event calendar, you know how challenging that can be. There's so many different things that go into managing your calendar and ensuring that the content is looking good. The result, more conversions because there's a lot to do. So, how does event automation technology work? Perhaps you are familiar with something like this, and maybe this is brand new for you. This is something that we do at Yodel. So, I'm going to definitely give a little subtle nod to what we do, but it's really unique. Our proprietary technology actually is scraping websites for event data. And we do this very similarly to how Google is indexing pages. If you search for events in your community, you see a list of events, albeit generally there's only a few, but Google is indexing events this way. We're just doing it on a grander scale to ensure we're literally capturing everything in a community. Well, what's really cool about how this works out is all these events get pulled into our system Yodel, but you can put them on your website and increase the event keywords, aka the top of the funnel, and have full control over the event mix. And I won't be offended at all if those 8 categories don't pertain to your community. I completely recognize every community is so different, and some communities definitely do have way more live music than family fun. Regardless, what's really cool about the event mix, and I've seen this in every community we've ever met with, they end up seeing that there are events in their community that they didn't even know existed, which is just really cool to see someone's eyes light up where they're like, "What? There's a holiday market this Saturday? I had no idea." But that's what event automation can do. And this is all hyper local data. This is all stuff from your community. And then, of course, this is saving just a ton of time. And I don't know if you are managing your event calendar, if you've ever taken a moment to just really sit down and say, how much time am I spending on this every week? Well, I'm not asking you to do that. We really have got an average for you. 350 hours is the average time that someone is spending on managing their event calendar every year. That, of course, depending on what you're paying yourself or someone else to do that, that is extremely costly. I'm not going to read these bullets to you, but hopefully when you look at this, you're thinking like, yep, I definitely recognize that I'm doing all of those things. And you're not alone because there are hundreds of people out there doing the same thing right now. So I want to give you an example of how this is having an impact in a visitors bureau today. This is actually a community in Darke County, Ohio that um, almost a year ago to the day we met with them, and they did not actually have a true event calendar on their site. They actually had a Google calendar, and we're just kind of doing some of those things that are on this list here, trying to get submissions, manually entering events, and as you know, that takes a lot of time. We implemented our event calendar technology on Visit Dark County's website in May of this year. They saw a 96% increase in web traffic in just 3 short months. So it's pretty exciting how quickly this impact can be, just from pulling in fresh content every day to your site. And the best part is you don't have to do any manual entry anymore. So what's really cool too is you have choices. We have our own widget that's super easy to implement on a website, but if you love your existing calendar, a lot of the times you can continue using that calendar and still benefit from some of the event automation techniques I just mentioned. And then if you're familiar with APIs, we also can offer an event API as well. So, for joining us today, we want to actually offer everyone here a complimentary website analysis and a sample of events from your own community. So, using those tools like SE ranking that I mentioned earlier, our team can help you get a pulse on your current web traffic. You would also receive our special 50 keywords list that I've been referencing often. So we can get that list in your hands to hopefully determine some gaps that you might be experiencing in your keyword rankings. And then, of course, you'll get to see a cool sample of your event of an event calendar with events from your community. And hopefully it'll be kind of similar to what we've seen in the past, where you see something on there that you didn't even know was happening in your own backyard, which is always so fun to see. So I really appreciate being able to take this opportunity to share this information with you. I'm going to turn it over for some Q&A. This is how you spell my last name, by the way. Apologies for that. But what questions do you all have?
Yeah, and I just want to let everybody know that I dropped in a link where you can meet with Rachel. So if you want to take advantage of that opportunity to get a free sample from Yodel, you can actually use that link to schedule directly with her. Feel free to put questions in the Q&A and in the chat, and I'll be monitoring them. But I know I wanted to touch on a few different things that Rachel brought up that I think are really key. One is, I think, search engine optimization is such a big conversation these days. So I want to just encourage everyone, as we've talked about in many other webinars, what Google is doing is really shifting and changing as the machine learning kind of deepens its presence in our lives. I think we're going to see a lot of things moving in different directions with other types of platforms as well. Like Search GPT is available now, sort of in beta mode to certain people. Chat GPT is certainly going to make a play for people to engage. Microsoft has had a deal with OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT. Their Copilot is also kind of like taking a big leap forward. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit, Rachel, about just sort of the way that you all are kind of implementing sort of SEO strategies inside of Yodel. Because I do know, in addition to some of the CVBs and DMOs, we've also got people that are listing their events on those sites. Do you guys just have any tips for how you can better optimize your event listings? Um, Especially because I think a lot of CVBs and DMOs in the past have struggled to get people to even put their events on there. And then, if they are putting them on there, how accurate are they, or how much of a write-up have they given? I know this is going to scrape a lot of information, but could you talk a little bit about how it's kind of formatting that stuff and making it really Google friendly?
Exactly. Yeah. And you nailed it with the AI too. And it's just such a hot topic these days. And like it or not, that is where our world is going. But to your point, really, and how this technology is working is when we are pulling in these events, again, very similarly to how Google is indexing pages, we are only capturing an event calendar on, say, the local pub's website. Anytime that pub enters a new event to their website, our technology recognizes it at midnight every night. Yodel's working really, really hard with all these scrapers we have set up. And we pull that data in. And when it appears on your website, we are actually creating a unique URL for each of those event details. That is how Google is able to recognize, oh, this is a new page on their website. And because of that content freshness indicator that's so important for Google to recognize new content, as well as those keywords that are being pulled in. So, for instance, if the event name has the words live music in it, the way that we're indexing that page helps you rank for more keywords such as live music. So that when a visitor or even community member is searching live music in Traverse City, Michigan, that website very quickly jets up to the top of the page. Does that help a little bit, Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's super helpful because I think what you're talking about is for those of you who are listing your events as well as kind of aggregating, it's taking the burden off you in a lot of ways to worry about those details, right? So if your systems think if the automation system, whether it's Yodel or another one, but I think the key thing to think about is when you are talking to any event automation system, it's really important that they've done this work, right? From the SEO perspective, that they understand how important the URL is, that they're identifying the right keywords, that as they pull in the information, they're actually refining that and making it more searchable. Because
Mhm.
I think that's going to matter for Google, but I think going forward, we're going to see all these other systems that are making a play for the search market. And I try to remind people, they don't have to make a play for 80% of the market to win. If ChatGPT and Microsoft Bing can steal like 10% of Google's market share, they're going to be making a lot of money. So it's like they're really
Absolutely.
aiming just to pull in a number of things that they want to go after. And tourism and travel is at the top of the list right away. It's one of the first industries I think we're seeing are targeted. So in the long run, I think what you're talking about isn't just a strategy for now, but going forward, it's going to get more important because we're going to have these other types of kind of search engines, which are really concierge bots, right? Like kind of giving us
Absolutely.
the answers to things. And so I just love that you were explaining that because I feel like it's so important if you want your events, the individual URLs to show up, things like that, that you really have that architecture understanding from an SEO perspective. And I see a lot of event calendar systems that just don't have that built in. So
I absolutely love that. I mean, imagine a day where you could literally search for any event in one place. And that is what we aspire to do someday at Yodel, because really there is no one place. People are going to Google, Facebook, Eventbrite, and it's really quite easy to pull all that stuff into one place. It's amazing that that really doesn't exist yet. Um, But yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. Appreciate that. I think that this can really help a lot of local businesses too who might be struggling, right? Like there's a lot of local businesses that we've talked to who have been posting their events to Facebook and maybe their website, and they're not getting the visibility that they want. And if those events can be pulled into a website that does get a lot more traffic, that can help increase engagement in their events as well.
Yeah, so one thing, because I know some of the folks on the call, like I said, are involved in their local CVB or DMO. Just remember, like, I think one of the things that every, destination that I talk to struggles with is sometimes, we have these opportunities, but people aren't taking those opportunities, right? Because small business owners, Molly's on the line, she's a DJ, she's out there rocking and rolling all the time. Those are folks where they don't have a lot of extra time to, let's say, go into their listings, update things all the time, handle it all the time. So I want to encourage some of you too who work closely with your DMOs. This is, I think, a conversation you can advocate for too. If you want to see what the destination you're in is doing to sort of amplify what's going on, one of the things you can bring to the table is the conversation about how do you enhance this event calendar for everybody. And I think for DMOs and CDBs, for those of you especially who've struggled getting your local small businesses and event people to take the time to input their information, you're actually removing that barrier entirely with a system like this. And I just feel like it's sort of a win-win for everybody. And I think it can be a real motivator for those of you who are trying to engage with your local businesses and the places that are hosting the events or holding the events every week or doing the larger annual events. To me, it's just so valuable to think about how you can reduce barriers for them to be seen. And that builds goodwill and that builds deeper relationships. And this is, I think, a huge opportunity when it comes to automation. I think sometimes we shy away from automation. It seems kind of like a big subject in a lot of ways. But I want to
Hmm.
encourage everyone, one of the ways that you make good choices with automation is to really strategize where that automation is best used for you and your community. So not only will it save your staff time in aggregating things, but how will it also remove some barriers for the businesses in your area who are busy and have lots on their plate and maybe don't always have time to update everything? How can we sort of find that sweet spot and say, we're going to find an automation solution for this? And this is where I think companies like Yodel are really stepping up their game because events is an issue many people struggle with. As you said, there's so many people over the years, myself included, in different parts of the work that I've done, where, we've really struggled to figure out how can we um, capture everything? How can we make sure it's accurate? How can we make sure nobody's left out? How can we make sure we're not missing anything? And I think, that struggle, it's really, there's a very direct solution for that that is, emerging. And I think Yodel's really taking the lead on this, which is exciting.
Well,
Um,
thank you, Sarah.
yeah, I mean, it's like I said, as soon as I started playing around and looking at what you guys are doing, I was like, oh, I feel like there's a million people I've talked to over the years, but I wish we could have done this before.
Oh,
And I think Asheville is a great example. I mean, again, we're struggling through some recovery right now, but the truth is, I think for those of us who live here, we often are where it's really hard to keep up with what's happening. You often, if you're on social media, the community finds out about something 3 days after it happened. So I think,
exactly.
this is really kind of a very clear solution to bringing people together in a way that's effective for visitors, for businesses, for the DMO themselves, and it solves a bunch of problems. And I think that's where, as we move into, I think, going into next year, I want everybody to be prepared that, automation and how we improve efficiency in our workflows, there's going to be like a million opportunities. So one of the things that you can be doing right now as we go into the end of the year and maybe a slightly slower season at the beginning of next year is really sitting down and understanding, where do we need more efficiency? Where do we need more wins for everybody? And how do we sort of start to pinpoint those problems? Because the answer is going to be we can automate everything, and every month there's going to be more chances for that. And so I think it's really about, where do you actually need to see the improvements? And I just think events is like one of those top level things Again, not just for bringing in visitors, but also for building community goodwill and for really
Yes.
helping people understand the impact of a DMO or CVB on the community economically. I think, all of this sort of comes together to really sort of build a sort of stronger ecosystem that is not just, focus on everybody having a great time, which is important and finding what they need, but it's also literally, I really love that you shared the funnel information because that's about how we build the economic development,
Hmm.
and even in a city like Asheville, where we've had a lot of success, probably more going on than we could ever talk about. At the same time, here we are in an unexpected situation where we're going to have to be thinking forward next year about how we increase those conversions really and like really take ourselves up a notch. Um, and so I think communities now's a great time over the winter to really think about, as we look at more AI, more automation, more things that you streamline, there's going to be so many options. So start to pinpoint where you want to see those streamlined things happen. And that's going to help hey, these are the types of automations I need to explore. These are the types of companies that I need to reach out to find out what's possible. And I think the key for events is really no matter what company you're working with, that they really understand conversions and SEO and the value of those things because some systems look great and they're functional, but they're not really marketing. They're sort of more utility, right? So they're handling things, but they're not actually out there grabbing information. They're not
Hmm.
actually making it more optimized. And so again, that you're not going to know which system is right until you've really said these are the goals we have to accomplish, which is really important.
Absolutely. And you just said something too that made me think about we have worked with some communities in the past who see this as a complete ecosystem in their community. So one example is Athens County, which is where Ohio University is. Athens actually reminds me quite a bit of Asheville. I did go to school there, so I have like a picture in my mind of it right now. But what's so cool about that community is they actually have multiple organizations in their community benefiting from all of the data gathered from over 120 organizations. So not only does their independent nonprofit newspaper have it on their website, they also have their local hotel and visitors bureau and community foundation all involved. And it creates a sense of community when all of those community leaders can work together and create a really holistic calendar for the whole community and then for all of the people who might be visiting as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like you just touched on something that I've also been telling everyone that I want them to think about over the holidays while they have a little bit of time and maybe going into the beginning of the year. It's really that holistic perspective. At this point, I feel like in a lot of ways, our marketing plans are very linear
Mhm.
historically. And I think it's really important to start to realize that almost everything nowadays is starting to go in a circle, right?
So
Like
true.
yeah, it's an ecosystem. Like your marketing is not a linear thing that because of the digital world, that's really shifted,
Yeah.
especially in the last 20 years that I've been in my own career. It's been kind of amazing to watch how these kind of basic things that we think about, we have to start bringing everything together into one sort of
Hmm.
holistic vision because your website, your social media, all these different things, all the different channels you use, your email marketing, your YouTube channels, right? All these different things you're using, they all have a relationship to each other and they all are actually related directly to the funnel experience in different ways. And so to me, it's really important to just have that perspective as we go into 2025, because I think for marketing success in a bigger picture perspective, it's like when you can see how the events tie into, your member listings, tie into, the different sort of shop, stay, kind of sections of your website. When you really start to have that holistic perspective, you even start to see that from the macro to the micro. So you start to see, oh, these different parts of my website really interact with each other. We're really leading
Totally.
people to different places. And I think that lends itself to, even simple tactics like making sure the rest of your website drives people into the event calendar in a really relevant, keyword oriented way. So even like making sure that you place different things throughout your website that lead people into that event calendar. And I think really thinking out how your social media relates to all of this, because I see things like Yodel can also sort of reduce time when it comes to how many event pages you're building on social media that are maybe getting
Yeah,
some results, but not that many. It's like, maybe we don't need to keep doing that. Maybe if the website is strong enough, we funnel everybody there. Maybe our advertising campaigns do the same thing and they get this really
absolutely.
good user experience. So I think that holistic kind of perspective, that's something going into the new year that even for my own work, I'm really trying to like hone that in, that we can't really talk about things like they're on an island because they're really genuinely not. Like they're really interconnected. There's these connections between all the different pieces we've got going on digitally.
Oh, I'm so with you. It sounds very similar to some of our internal conversations these days. It's like we just have to be adaptable with the environment these days. Things are moving so fast. And to your point, everything connects. We have to reach people where they're at. So, um, appreciate your sentiments on that, Sarah. Totally agree.
Yeah, I like getting to the end of the year because I know for a lot of us in January and February, we'll be busy, but we'll have a little bit of time to strategize. And I think that's like a
Yes.
really key thing to be doing when you have some downtime, you're not in like the high grind, to really be able to sit and kind of say, all right, how are we going to approach things? Like I said, where are we lacking efficiency? Where are we spending too much time? Where are we not getting results? How do we find things that are going to solve that problem? Bring some stuff together to make it simpler and easier. And a lot of times, if you're in the summer, if you're in, the holiday season, you don't have that space to think about those things. And so to me, it's really valuable to do that when you have those times and to even maybe sit down with your team and brainstorm and talk this out. So it's not just something that the executive director needs to think about, but maybe the executive director and the whole marketing team can get together and talk about how you improve these parts of how you're showing up online. And like I said, how you're promoting the different things in your area that are so valuable and important for folks.
Love that. I totally agree. This is my favorite time of year. And going into January, even though January feels like the longest month of the year, it does give you a time to really reset, reflect, and think about what do I want to accomplish this year to move the needle.
Yeah. So I'm gonna assume there's no questions because I know, no problem, Micah. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Micah.
Um, Again, we'll stay here for the next few minutes and answer any questions that do come up. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Molly.
Thanks,
I
Molly.
do want to drop in the chat again. If you'd like to meet with Rachel and explore some of this in more detail, please don't hesitate to use her Calendly link. I'll also include that in the email that we send out after. And just a reminder, if you're interested in learning with us in person in March, please check out the DIYtourismmarketing.com website for more information. And if you are local to Western North Carolina and you'd like to come to our event, hey, thanks for being here, Kimberly. If you'd like to come to our event and you are based in Western North Carolina or another area impacted by Helene, if there is any financial need that you have, I want to encourage you to reach out to me. We are working on some scholarship programs right now for folks that have been impacted by some natural disaster this year, and we want to give you the opportunity to show up. Hey, thank you so much, Daryl. We're really, really glad that you guys all made it. I'm glad this was helpful. And I just want to say to Rachel, thank you again for taking the time today. Um, I'm excited to see you in March and hang out with you in
Ew.
person. And Jennifer, great. I'm so glad to hear you say that. So hopefully you can
Thanks,
connect
Jen.
and talk with Rachel more. But I'm really glad to have you guys on board in March, and I'm really looking forward to just learning more about what you guys are doing and see what you're able to accomplish as we go forward next year. Because I really am so excited at the work Yodel's doing. I think it's really cool. It's really different. I'm an SEO dork, so talking to any platform that is making search kind of their focus right now is really exciting because there's so much changing and there's so much
There
opportunity.
is.
And I think the way things have been done my whole career is about to be wildly different and very cool. There's a
I'm
lot of
bracing
AI
myself.
stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of AI stuff out there that I have questions about, but there's some
Yeah.
things that I'm watching develop where I'm like, man, this is really going to allow us to just do more, support our communities more, and really I think, like I said, create these wins that go across the board for everybody involved in tourism and travel. So thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This was awesome. I'm really excited to meet you in person and appreciate all you guys are doing there. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, thanks for being here, Corey. Thank you so much, Pamela. Um, And again, I hope that you all will reach out to Rachel and speak with her sometime soon. But in the meantime, have a great rest of your week. And I hope that we will see you at the beginning of January. Just a reminder, our January digital drop-in is always the second week of the month because it will be literally New Year's, the first week. So we'll see you the second week of January. And thanks again for joining us. Have a really great day. Thanks so much, Larry. Thanks so much, Rosemary. See y'all later.
Bye, everyone.